I might have to finish up a little bit earlier. I told
Okay.
my old man I'd bring him to vote. We get to decide which shower of wankers we're going to put in this time. You know, it's.
But Trevor, it matters to that generation, yeah.
Oh, big time, man! Big.
You know,
time.
my mum and dad were the same. You know what I mean? Whoa, you know.
Yeah.
Fair enough. You know, you have a voice, use it.
That's it. So I'm more than happy to bring him over. I get it. Like, right, we will go in about 10 from here. Hello and welcome back to Molby on the Spot, your weekly chance, thanks to Anfield Index Pro, to hear the wit and wisdom of your friend and mine, the Liverpool legend, Mr. Jan Molby. Good evening, Jan.
Good evening, Trevor. I hope you're well.
I am, and we're going a little bit earlier and on the wrong day. It's all a bit wild around here at the moment, but it's weird because the extra day has given us some new stories that have sort of broken today. Not good ones, I would say, but there's a lot swirling around the whole Liverpool universe at the moment. Mainly the contract talks. That's the big one, but we also had some just pretty shitty news in the last little while. We've had confirmation that Konate looks like missing, I think, 5 to 6 weeks is what the story I'm just after reading says. Yeah, likely to miss most of the festive period with a knee injury sustained in the last game during the closing stages. Out of action likely for 5 to 6 weeks, probably therefore missing pretty much all of December and the early part of January. That's a massive blow, Jan, because we were talking about how he's actually been so immense for us and how the fitness people at the club had managed to keep him rotating through matches in a way that he hadn't been before. And boom, this happens. And, you know, the games, when you read them, it's painful to think of him being missing for Manchester City at the weekend, Newcastle midweek, Everton away, then Fulham, Spurs, Leicester, West Ham, and Man United is the game that's on the 5th of January. It's a tough blow, Jan, I have to say. Just to start on a slightly down note, we might as well get that one out of the way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's not as if we're not used to Konate being out through injuries in it, but this has been the best version of Konate since he joined Liverpool. And I think in many ways, the manager's simplified his game. He's asked him to be a defender, win your headers, win your individual battles. Also think the fact that our right fullback plays in a slightly different role now. So he's always got somebody there to give him a hand. But I just think that he's just grown. We had high hopes when he joined us, but due to injuries, he's found it almost impossible to get into a real rhythm. But he had done this season. So yeah, it's absolutely a massive blow. I mean, look back at the start of the season where Arne Slot had decided that Virgil and Konate was going to be his preferred pairing. He seems to have lost maybe possibly a little bit of confidence in Konate. Maybe he's just looking and thinking he's still a young boy. He's got a long way to go. So it's actually interesting to see who comes in. Would it be Konate or would it be Joe Gomez? I've got a feeling it might just be Joe. But yeah, it's a blow, Trevor. But these things happen, and we're in a good place, aren't we? You know, we're in a good place at the moment. You get the feel there's a nice feeling down at the training ground, and everybody's ready to go, isn't it? So other people will have to step up, Trevor. It's as simple as that.
Now, one lad who had stepped up was Conor Bradley with a wonderful performance against Real Madrid in the week that I don't think too many people saw coming, because there was a lot of talk about how Conor was perhaps having that difficult second season, like the difficult second album that you hear about. And I guess there was proof there. The proof of the pudding was in the performances. But that was outrageously good against Real, and specifically, of course, there's the memorable moment against Mbappe, but he was just really good. He's got an assist, a really calm, cold-blooded sort of set for the McAllister goal. Not as easy as it looks. He's genuinely a great talent. People are so high on him, and to be missing him now as well, it kind of complicates the whole situation, because I guess Joe Gomez would have been expecting to play there when we got the news about Bradley. And, you know, because we weren't sure if Trent was going to be brought back in bits and bobs or whether he's just back in the starting lineup or whatever. As you say, it's fantastic and it transforms us to have him back again. But it does feel a bit like a revolving door. Yes, Ali's back now on the fringes with Queeveen playing incredibly well. So we're spoiled for choice there. But losing Bradley now is a little bit of a blow. It does complicate things because it's an extended period of games where, we go from looking quite comfortable, where we have Joe and Trent for right back. Connor's out, fair enough, that's not too bad. But now we need Joe in the middle. And it's a bigger ask of our squad. And it probably means that Virgil's going to have to play all of those games as well, which I guess he probably might have done anyway. But it is unfortunate coincidence that the two things happen at once, especially when the guy who's the most likely recruit back into the team is a two-position man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you just lose a little bit of that leeway you have, isn't it? In terms of numbers. You're running short on numbers, and Trent has only just returned himself from an injury. We can't be 100% sure where he's at. So yeah, it does give us a problem. That's for sure, isn't it? But as we know, injuries are part of it. And as we sit here a couple of days before the City game, I'm quite comfortable we can cope with what City have got on Sunday, isn't it? But we do need to just stay clear of any more injuries, just to make sure we get to December. I'm sure it is a very busy month. A lot of important points up for grabs, isn't it? So. We need to be ready for it.
Well, let's tease out the whole squad shape at the moment, because before we look at City and Newcastle as the games are coming up, and before we react and reflect on the Real win 2 nights ago, let's just talk about what's happening with the squad, because we have a nice tough at the top headache for the manager to deal with in the shape of Alisson, Becker back. And it's a really interesting one. And I know I said we wouldn't talk about the City game, but it's kind of relevant to this topic here, that we just look at one aspect of it. You are given the Arne Slot gaffer jacket at the weekend, Jan. I know it shouldn't be a tough call, and I think I've already said in the past, look, if Ali's fit, he plays, he's the best in the world. But there is a potential rustiness issue. And you have a fella who's just in a real moment, saving penalties, really on the ball at the moment, clean sheets, all that type of thing. I think it's a trickier decision than people might think.
I knew you were going to ask me that question, Trevor. Hence the reason I wore the jacket. So I was ready for it. And so what would I do? I mean, last week, casually, I think Arne Slot was asked a question about the goalkeeping situation, and he went, number one is Alisson. And I like that. I'm a big fan of who's number one, who's number two, because it has to be clear. But now here we are, possibly with Alisson being back available for City. In my book, wearing my jacket here today, Trevor, Kelleher plays for me. I wouldn't bring back Alisson for the game on Sunday, I think. Kelleher's done nothing wrong, has he? And he's more than ready. So for me, he plays. But it will be interesting because Alisson will also think that, well, he would have read what the manager said last week, wouldn't he? And he would think, well, here I am. I'm ready and available.
Yeah.
Are you going to play me or what? So,
yeah.
It'll be interesting. But it is throwing in Trev. It is a little bit if you're thinking that Kelleher in goal, Joe playing a centre half, isn't it? And Trent coming back in and whatever. All of a sudden, it's kind of gone from something we maybe didn't expect, isn't it? But it's not something you'll overly worry. I wouldn't worry about any of them, because they've all proved they're more than capable, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's not as if they have an ample experience of playing with each other. And there is a world in which they are all obviously not a world. There's a reality for some people where they're actually the first choice anyway. So it is exciting to have them back, but it's just the rustiness thing. I think, like you, although I have obviously dressed down, that was my reaction. I'm going to look casual, because if I look casual, I might get away with this dodgy opinion of mine where I think, the Trent situation is a little bit complicating everything for me because of that sort of rustiness angle against a team, Jan, who are going to be beyond up for it. Anyway, let me put that on hold. Because I really want to talk about City, and I want to talk about Guardiola, I want to talk about the post-match reaction in the week and a few things. But let's just finish this squad chat here, because again, cycling back into contention is Harvey Elliott. And we're assuming that Jota is going to be available sooner rather than later, although it's a little bit vague, as it's a little bit vague about Conor Bradley and the duration that he's going to be out for. But in terms of people coming back in, Ali's massive, Trent, obviously massive to have those two guys back. But it is interesting. And again, Chiesa, where is he? We're not quite sure where Chiesa's at, but I think Slot's been very good. He's basically sort of brushed questions off and said, look, he's getting his pre-season that he didn't get. He'll be ready when he's ready, and that's basically it. So it is looking a little bit better as we go through the middle of the park and up into the attacking areas as well, in terms of the amount of bodies that he has to call on. Do you see any world at all in which we have maybe one of Jota or Harvey Elliott involved within a couple of matches? I think Harvey's going to find it hard to get in the team personally, but you could see Jota coming straight in, for example, if he was available.
Yeah, you could see that. I mean, we've obviously got the games coming up, haven't we? We've got the Champions League midweek game, and we also got the Carabao Cup. So there will be opportunities. And, you know, as much as we keep talking about before every game, will he rest a few? Will he rotate a few? He tends not to, you know, even against Real Madrid. We thought he might have done different, isn't it? So, but yeah, I think it'd be very much be his interest to get Jota involved as quick as possible. Whereas he might look at Harvey Elliott in a different way and go, at what stage do I need Harvey Elliott because of the way that others are playing? Whereas he's maybe thinking with Jota, with what Jota brings, and also with this still this thing about Darwin Núñez, you know, what do we get from him? I mean, we get plenty of effort and whatever, isn't it? But does Jota bring something else because of Jota's ability, you know, to nick goals? I think that's the best way to describe him. He nicks goals, doesn't he, where you don't quite see it coming, isn't it? So I think it would very much be in the manager's interest to get Jota going as quick as possible.
Yeah, there's so much to that we could talk about. We could spend an entire show talking about the Darwin Núñez situation. I see today with interest that there are various outlets running stories about Luis Diaz and a contract situation for him. And we do know that he's quite, you know, by standards of the rest of the squad, he's quite underpaid and will be due a bump in his salary and a renewal and all that kind of thing. And it just feels like the club have an awful lot on their plates that they have to deal with. And it just does feel unnecessary. The Salah thing, I don't think we really got a chance to talk about this because it was after, wasn't it, the weekend match? So we haven't had a chance to talk about this. But like between us, my take on it was, why shouldn't the guy say what he wants to say? I'm always very much player centric because these guys have one go at it, man. And if he wants to leverage a situation, and he's never really spoken in the mixed zone, only a couple of times in the past, I can't understand the outrage from the likes of Carragher about that, who's saying he's disappointed in him. Why is he disappointed? He's using a situation that I think every one of us is disappointed by to try to leverage a better deal for himself. The same Carragher was very clear in the fact that they absolutely have been having negotiations. I guess nobody really knows anything about the ins and outs of it, but it seems a bit daft that they wouldn't have spoken to him. But when Mo was saying it, he was implying that nobody had made any contact at all. Now, that does seem a little bit unlikely to me. Arne Slot's press conference was a day early. And I think an awful lot of people were hoping there was going to be some sort of announcement today, Jan. Sadly, what are we here at now? 4:45, 10:05, still nothing. It doesn't look like there's going to be anything either. We're told the ownership are in town. So there's a whole lot of floating around here. I'm going to just throw you out my theory. I think that over the next period of time leading up to Christmas, we hear positive news about Virgil and about Mo. I don't think the Trent thing gets done. I have a terrible bad feeling about that. I can't really tell you why. I'm not a pessimistic man, but I just don't feel any positivity about that. And I don't see any signings really worth a damn in January either. And I think that's all of that. If that comes about, if there's no Trent arrangement and there's no signings, when we're already hearing City being linked with Zubimendi and Adam Horton and others, because they've got no Rodri, so City desperately need players. I've put an awful lot on the table there. Will you just walk us through your opinions on what you think the status of play is with the Mo Salah contract? Start there.
Yeah, I mean, going back to Mo and what he did on Sunday, fair enough. I think there's a certain amount of frustration attached to the whole thing, because I think there's no doubt Mo did that on Sunday, and I don't think that was his intention. But I think the way it came out was that here's a guy who's desperate to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe desperate is not the right word, but here's a guy who wants to stay. Yeah, he wants to stay. His family, we want to stay, and we're frustrated because I can't do any more of what I'm doing. I deliver every game, and I just want this sorted. You know what I mean? And it would be the best thing for everybody to get it sorted. So I totally agree with Carragher in terms of there has been some negotiations without any shadow of doubt. But also, Trevor, is that at some stage, Mo Salah's camp is going to go to Liverpool. Okay, it's time for you to make an offer. And we can't have an offer being made by Liverpool Football Club that gets totally dismissed out of hand, because that would be a bad start to negotiations. You know what I mean? So there's certain things we have to almost agree on before Liverpool are in a position to make that offer. And one of those is the length of the contract and also the weekly wages. Then everything else around, you can kind of play around with a little bit, can't you? Bonuses and signing on fees and whatever, isn't it? So I can imagine something like this. Liverpool would have spoke to Mo's camp and gone, so what are you thinking, guys? And they're probably thinking, well, we're thinking 3 years, £500,000 a week. And Liverpool have then gone, that's not what we thought. But at least the ball is rolling, isn't it? And then that's where we start from, isn't it? So that being the main topic of everything. In terms of the press conference being yesterday, Thursday at 3:00, a lot of people asked me, and I sent a text quickly to someone. They said, no, I think it's to do with the fact that the players have got a day off today. I believe Arne Slot's family is over from the Netherlands and decided Friday was going to be a day off. So there was nothing malicious in that in terms of that. I'm delighted that you're positive in terms of when can we expect an announcement, certainly regarding some of the players, isn't it? I don't know, Trevor. It's just bizarre. There is rumours, but these people who write them rumours, and most of the people I don't know. But every now and again, I know one or two of the people who write the rumours, and I go, where do you get this from? And they go, well, we don't really,
Yeah.
It's like an educated second guess. We're just trying to guess what is going on, So I think it's fair to guess that Mo probably wants a 3-year contract. Why wouldn't he? He's not going to ask for a 1-year or 2-year contract. He's going to ask for a minimum of 3 years. So you're pretty safe by guessing that, aren't you? But in terms of anything else, I don't know what they are. So last week, I heard from what I can call a reliable source who said that Virgil and Trent are waiting for Mo because they would like that information before they start to negotiate. Well, how much are Liverpool playing the most important player at the club? And we'll take the cue from there, isn't it? Then I heard somebody said negotiations have been going quite well. And then somebody else said they haven't. There hasn't been a real break. There hasn't been a real breakthrough with any of them. You know what I mean? So I go, I give up. So I wake up early. I wake up earlier and earlier in the morning now, Trevor, hoping that there's going to be an announcement somewhere. But I think I'm going to go back to what I'm good at, which is sleeping. You know what I mean, Trevor? Trevor, there's fuck all happening.
Will we just leave it at that? This is a good spot to end the show.
But Trevor, do you know what annoys me a little bit?
What's that?
And it shouldn't really, because it's very much the way I am normally. It's very calm, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's and I am generally a very calm person, but sometimes I get a bit impatient. I'm going, no, stop messing about. Let's get it sorted. You know what I mean? And I kind of need to know where we're standing, isn't it? Because it is remarkable how calm it is. You know what I mean? It doesn't appear that anyone at Liverpool is panicking. And when you speak to them, they go, well, it is what it is, and we didn't want to be here in the first place, but we are, and this is how we're going to deal with it.
Yeah, the frustration is a real thing. I'd be a bit like yourself. I try not to get too upset one way or the other, and try to be a bit, pragmatic about things or whatever. But it is getting sort of irritating because people like myself and yourself who spend a lot of time talking about the club. Uh, it would be nice to know. You feel as if you're talking in circles a lot of the time, and this is it, there are too many things up in the air currently. It's not like just one thing. For example, Jan, even just a simple situation where you get into a conversation and, like you said, someone tells you something and then someone contradicts it. But I had a situation where I was listening to someone talking about the Mo Salah contract situation, and they dropped something which I wouldn't have picked up on because it's not a thing that's of interest to me. I'm not one of these number cruncher fans, but it was a really good point, and it was to do with image rights,
Mm.
and the fact that Salah is an Adidas athlete.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
obviously, when he's with the nightclub, it's a separate thing. But now Adidas are going to be taking over, and is there some sort of internal wrangling about that? And is he being expected to do certain things because the club is now sponsored by Adidas from next season on? It's just fascinating, but also hugely irritating when you don't know what's going on. Were you lucky enough to be on your travels to a comparatively local destination for your Champions League football during the week? Did you get, in other words, to Anfield for that game?
Yeah, I did, Trevor. I had the Tuesday off. Our main game on a Tuesday was Bayern Munich against Paris Saint-Germain. I wasn't at that, but I was at the game on Wednesday. It was one of those ones, Trevor. I mean, you sense early on, and I'm talking about prior to kickoff, in Real Madrid. I mean, we like to call ourselves European royalty, isn't it? But Real Madrid is probably the real European royalty, and I think you kind of sense that Anfield thought, we're going to serve this up to you, just to put the record straight, isn't it? We're going to serve this up to you, isn't it? And we did. We did what we always do, Trevor. First half, felt our way into the game. Let's see what they've got. They've also got one or two players missing. Let's see where Mbappe brings. Let's see Bellingham, what kind of form he's in and whatever. And then at half time, I guess Arne would have gone, listen, they're not at it. They look a bit sluggish. They got areas where we can hurt them. And right from the first minute of the second half, he went, okay, this is the business end now. And it felt like that, didn't it? This is the business end now. Just get it done in it. And in the end, it's just a case of it was a 2-0 hammering. But we don't tend to. Our superiority is not reflected in score lines anymore. It was when Klopp was here, winning 3-4, 5-0. It's no longer reflected in score lines. But if you watch the game, it's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was a 2-0 battering.
Yeah, a 2-0 battering is a good way to put it, actually. And I made a point of just looking up the match stats before. Yeah, I mean, 63% of the ball against Real Madrid is wild. 17 shots to their 8, 7 on target, and our pass accuracy is 91% over the course of the match. The yellow card situation got a bit wild with the referee. I thought he had a very uneven sort of a game. The guys who I was watching the game with, Ali McCoist was the co-coms, and Ali thought he had a great game. So it just shows you, I was starting to question what I was seeing. It wasn't really something that I could see as being particularly impressive, but that's neither here nor there. The result very much is. And where it leaves us sit, Jan, is very pretty indeed at the top of that table. I mean, you'd have to be sort of a very cold fish not to be excited by the sight of the Champions League table, where, you start scrolling down from Liverpool to our opponents there the other night, and they're just coming in, scraping in 24th position on 6 points. And they have a handful of very winnable fixtures, which will probably see them qualifying no problem, I guess. But you get the feeling with this, Jan, and I could be wrong, you get the feeling that the last weekend, the last round of games here, I think is going to be absolute carnage. It does feel like there could be some very big clubs teetering on the abyss going into that final round of games, because a lot of big clubs are off the pace to a remarkable extent that even if they win 1-2, they're still going to need a result going into the last game. It's a wild position that Liverpool have put themselves in, which is effectively qualified now, but very, very close. I think we can probably cough up one of these games, or as we were saying on Raw, wouldn't it be the thing now, just to get your quick take on this, to really go for it against Girona? I know it's an away fixture, but to really go for it, because if we cement a win against Girona, we can just sit back, and Arne's got like a couple of games where he can effectively rest a huge amount of players, and we can sit back and relax.
Yeah, but I just don't think he operates like that, Trevor.
No, I agree.
I just don't think he does. I think he looks at it totally different, isn't he? And he will treat every game with the respect that he deserves. And I think Arne Slot, and I keep talking about the Dutch guys behind the closed door and whatever, and they got their feet up and they're having a cup of coffee and they're going, "What about winning all 8?"
Yeah.
But that's what I think they're thinking. What about winning all 8? In terms of the Champions League group phase, whatever it's called, I thought it would have been a little bit clearer than what it is. I thought there would have been more of those Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Liverpool, Barcelona, whatever, who would have been in the top 4 or 5 at this stage, needing maybe another 3 or 4 points. That's what I thought it was going to be like. So it isn't. But there will be some teams, as much as Bayern Munich got back to winning ways and whatever, but they have to continue to win. Otherwise, they're going to finish outside the top 8. It's not a disaster finish outside the top 8, yeah. But it's another 2 games, isn't it? For some clubs, it'll be great to get another 2 Champions League games and another home game and an income from another home game, isn't it? And in terms of the referee on Wednesday, and obviously you and Ali McCoist, the difference is, Trevor, Ali McCoist is trying to be impartial, whereas you're not, are you? But I do agree. I thought the referee made some strange decisions.
Yeah, and you just come to accept that at this stage. You don't want, for the good of your mental health, to check out the refereeing team for the City game. I'll just give you a hint. They're all from Greater Manchester. Surprise, surprise.
Trevor, it doesn't bother me. I believe it's harder and harder to believe that they are impartial. You know what I mean? But I want to believe. The police and referees, I hold them in high regard. So
Especially when some of the referees were police. So there you go. It's like,
what do you mean?
it's just one of those things that just seems to be another.
Can you imagine this, Trevor? If the Champions League finished now,
yeah,
and you finish 9th or 10th in the group or whatever, and you think, who are we going to be playing? Going to be playing Red Star Belgrade or something like that. And you got fucking Real Madrid because they finished 24th. Can you imagine that? You'd be well pissed off, wouldn't you?
You'll be pissed off. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It can't fail, but something like that's going to happen because of the way the clubs are dispersed. I think Real might have Atalanta next, who are sitting in their 4th or 5th.
And by the way, they look. I mean, I know we had our problems with them last year, didn't we? But they look a good team. I've seen them twice this year. One of them against Arsenal when they drew. I thought these are a good, really, really good team. And they are. Inter Milan is another team. I like Inter. I think they're really good. I haven't conceded a goal either. So there is. I think there's going to be some of them. I know Bayern Munich are doing really well in the Bundesliga, but I think Inter and Atalanta might be better than Bayern Munich at the moment.
Yeah, and look, the next couple of rounds will be interesting to watch. It's winning me round, this format. I have to say, it's definitely winning me round. We have 2 games to talk about, so I want to focus on what's coming up for us. And we have Manchester City next at the weekend, and it is, to be fair, a City that are on a hugely atypical run. For those of you who are living under rocks, let me just go through some of the most recent results because it's quite remarkable. They coughed up a 3-0 lead at home to Feyenoord on Tuesday night. They got pounded 4-0 by Tottenham Hotspur, and City were at home in the game previous to that. Brighton beat them 2-1, and City were away at Brighton in previous fixture to that. And Sporting beat them 4-1 in the Champions League on match day 4. Before that, Bournemouth beat them 2-1. And in the EFL Cup, Spurs beat them as well. I mean, this is quite a remarkable run, unparalleled in Pep Guardiola's coaching history, certainly with this club. And it seems to be taking its toll on him, Jan, because I don't know if you saw the clip of his post-match interview where he looked like he'd been scraped up a bit, and somebody said something to him about, what's happened, and he was explaining how he cut himself with a nail or something. It all sounded very unlikely. But in the moment before that, and this is what really I found just weird, it was like he was dissociating from reality. In the moment before that, he's on camera, he's on several cameras, doing a press conference, Jan, and he does that thing that he does in the sideline where he lets a bit of spit come out in his tongue. Now, that speaks to some sort of lack of awareness in the moment or disregard in the moment, and neither of them are good. Neither of them speak to a man who is aware of what he's doing in that moment in time. I think what I was reading into it was that he was like, obviously he couldn't wait to get out of there, but I really just found I found that quite jarring. The spitting thing, it was like, mate, what? Nobody really spoke about that. They spoke about this comment that he said, like, oh, I want to hurt myself or whatever, and people read into that. But I thought the other thing was far more jarring because it was kind of, a courtesy manners thing that nobody would do on camera. Odd, and I think he's really struggling with his current reality. They could be very much a wounded beast as a result, Jan. What do you make of what's happening there? Can you put your finger on what it's about? And what do you think of Guardiola in terms of, is he good at dealing with these kind of runs?
Well, we don't know, do we, Trevor?
We don't, yeah.
We've never been there before. In terms of the way that he behaves, I mean, I've been very close to him on many occasions. I've interviewed him on a couple of occasions, and, you ask him a question and he looks at it and it's to go, are you really asking me that question? It's like, really, do I have to answer that? Don't you know who I am? So he can be a little bit irritating, you know what I mean? And it was the same on Tuesday. In terms of Pep Guardiola, and when he's had problems before, it was quite easy for him to dismiss them things and go, it's a blip, we'll be back next week, isn't it? But this is not a blip, is it? This is kind of running a bit deeper, where even he's thinking, how do I get out of this? Because on Sunday, he will ask his players to be brave. He'll ask his players to play with risk. And I'm just thinking that might be the wrong solution at the moment, because he's running the risk of exposing his own team's weaknesses. And what you need to do when you're not playing well is to protect your weaknesses. Every team has weaknesses, and you need to protect your weaknesses. And I'm not sure he's very good at that. So at the moment, this is the difference between people go, do you think it has an impact on the Liverpool players, the way that Arne Slot behaves? I said, absolutely. The player look at him and they go, how calm is he? He's a calm guy. He gives us clear messages. Yeah. Don't you think the Manchester City players are looking at their manager and thinking, what is he up to? All the things that he's doing, whether that's scratching his face or playing with a bit of spit in his mouth, you know what I mean, or talking nonsense in press conferences, you know what I mean? And also players are very honest, even if it's your own manager. If your own manager talks nonsense, he gets found out by the players. The players go, what is he talking about? That's not reality.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of the players are looking and thinking, he's borderline losing it proper, And what you really needed as a situation was him to be like Arne Slot, even after 6 defeats or 5 defeats and a draw. He needed somebody to be really, really calm with a clear message. This is what's happening, and this is how we're going to attack, and this is how we're going to put it right again, isn't it? But whereas he refuses to answer the questions and talks, not nonsense is maybe a harsh word, isn't it? But it just doesn't make any. It doesn't make any sense for a leader of one of the leading football clubs in the world. I just expect more clear message, and I said it before, they'll all look at that and go, "I'll be careful he doesn't lose it here," you know.
It's hard to see how it couldn't influence and affect the squad, and it's not like, I mean, it's a lot of talk about Arsenal injuries and specifically from Arsenal fans, but now they've got Odegaard back. I think everything's going to be rosy and they'll never lose again or whatever, if you're to listen to that lot. But City do have the Rodri issue. It shouldn't be the big issue it is. But they also have Kovacic out. I'm not sure if Stones is going to be available to play. They've got at least one of their wide men out as well. So they don't have the depth of squad that they normally do have. So that's one upside for us taking them on. I think the real downside for Liverpool is that if you read a quote, there's a fantastic quote today. Gary Neville was getting himself very confused. He was trying to do mind games, bless him, in typical Neville fashion. And it didn't really work out the way I think he was hoping it would work out. He couldn't really get his facts lined up properly, and he had this long sort of drawn out thing here. He says, "I think Liverpool versus City is really interesting. I'm doing the game. I can't wait for it because there's a lot riding on it. I've never seen City look as vulnerable in the Pep Guardiola era." Jamie Redknapp mentioned this, and I thought it was a really good point, where he said that the pressure all of a sudden in this fixture is on Liverpool, in the sense that everyone will expect Liverpool to win because everyone's beating City. What will that do to Liverpool? I think Liverpool will win on Sunday. Looking at this City at this moment in time, when you feel the intensity and passion that Liverpool have, I think they could run all over them, is my gut feeling. Now, you can just hear the mental torment in poor little Neville's head there, because he wants to say things like the pressure's on Liverpool, but he also wants to say that Liverpool are going to win because that also ramps up the pressure on Liverpool. We know what he's at this stage. It's transparent. He's actually quite a good pundit when he's talking about anyone except Liverpool or United. But he's for the birds when he's asked about Liverpool, as is his pal Jamie. But in this case, I think it's hilarious to talk about pressure being on Liverpool, because if City don't win this, they are effectively done. It's 11 points then, Jan. And I don't think anyone would be seriously considering, well, certainly Guardiola will not think it's doable at 11 points.
No, I think we spoke at the start of the season, or maybe after a few games, about this thing about getting to a stage where City, when we won the league and we got 99 points, they got 82. They kind of lost interest in the Premier League, yeah. And I think they could do the same. If we can win on Sunday and go 11 points clear, I've got a feeling that they might decide we're going to sidestep the Premier League now, and we're going to focus on winning the FA Cup and trying to win the Champions League.
Yep.
And they'll lose a bit of interest in the Premier League. So yeah, of course, all the pressure's on Manchester City. This thing about potentially being, so Arsenal play Saturday, so potentially we could be 9 points clear of Arsenal. They could be in second on Sunday if we beat Manchester City. And then people go, well, now the pressure's on Liverpool because it's theirs to lose, isn't it? But pressure, Trevor, is when we're talking about 1 or 2 points, aren't we? A big gap like that, I don't believe in that. I played a lot myself in it. I can't really remember ever really feeling that pressure to the extent where it affects the way that you perform. So I'm pretty calm about it. I can understand Gary Neville's frustration, isn't it? I mean, he's got Manchester City there, he's got Liverpool there. Although they did beat Bodo Glimt 3-2, which was a real highlight for them after having been totally outplayed by Ipswich. So
yeah. I saw a Manchester United fan account, and they had a little sort of clip of a pretty good team goal that they scored, quite a lot of passes involved, and the kid who posted it said, "Amrin ball is beautiful to behold," and I was like, lad, it's his first fucking game. It's not Amrin ball. Wow, But anyway, that's delusion land over there. So ahead of the City game, we could spend ages talking about who might not play, but we've had a lot of decisions made for us. It would appear it's highly likely it'll be Joe in for Ibu, and Trent will start now. And the midfield area is the one that is always interesting. And there's one in each line, I guess, midfield and attack, that may change. I don't see any more than one in each line. But, Curtis Jones would feel that he has every right to expect to play. But what was wonderful for me, the big highlight for me of the Real Madrid game personally, was to see Alexis McAllister back doing Alexis McAllister things, because I think that could be huge for us, because he wasn't for a few weeks at his best or anywhere near it. And I just feel like he is absolutely, if he's on it, it feels like Liverpool are on it. I'm not trying to put too much pressure on him to be the main man, but it does feel that way, Jan, that if he's on it in our midfield, we're kind of good to go,
Yeah, because he does things that nobody else does, and one of them things is vision, isn't it? And having vision and being a good passer isn't always about being a long passer. It's about playing the right passes, isn't it? And he's very good at that. So yeah, I totally agree. In terms of the midfield, I've got a feeling that he might go back to Szoboszlai and use his energy in the press. And then, of course, Nunez, does he start again? And then who gets a call on the left? Is it Gakpo or Diaz?
Yeah, and these are all lovely headaches for the manager, and it's good. It means there's proper, resources on the bench as well. I do want to skip ahead to the Newcastle game, because we're just going to be a little bit shy of the hour this week. And the Newcastle game is going to be very interesting as well. Newcastle's most recent run of fixtures, for folks who are interested, they had a 2-0 reversal at home to West Ham in the last Premier League game. They had beaten Forest away 3-1 in the game before that, and they'd beaten Arsenal at home in the game before that, with a EFL Cup victory over Chelsea on the 30th of October, and they had lost to the same club in the Premier League on the 27th of October. It means, Jan, that if we're to just take a quick look at where they're sitting, they are currently in 10th spot on 18 points. And, if you're in or around there, I suppose it's not too bad. But there are so many teams that are, it's quite the bottleneck. Like from City on 23, then there's Chelsea, Arsenal, Brighton all on 22. You've got Spurs, Forest, Villa all on 19, and then Fulham and Newcastle on 18, Brentford 17, and back then, as you said earlier on, to United in 12th place on 16 points. So they're having a solid season, Newcastle. I've heard some reports of them, Jan, that would seem to be talking them up as a remarkable sort of a force of nature altogether. Some people are very high on this Newcastle team, and just for people's information, the last time they lined up was in that 2-0 defeat to West Ham, and they went with Pope, Schär and Kelly at centre half, Hall and Livramento fullback, Willock, Bruno Guimaraes and Longstaff were their midfield, with Joelinton, Gordon and Isak making up the numbers up top. They will pose a real threat. A lot of people, again, like I said, very high on Isak as well and how he's doing. What do you make of the challenge they'll pose? And it's always a difficult ground to go to as well.
Yeah, it'll be electric. There's no doubt about that. So they had the 3 consecutive wins, 2 in the Premier League and 1 in the Carabao Cup, and then you have a very winnable game at home against West Ham, and you think, well, okay, West Ham are getting going. Newcastle are getting going again. But I thought they were poor against West Ham. Yeah. They couldn't really lay a glove on West Ham. West Ham controlled the game, and I was looking. You mentioned the starting lineup there, and Joelinton playing in a wide role when really he needs to be more central, isn't it? They didn't get any pace on the flanks. There's no doubt that Isak is a special talent. I like him. He's a good link-up player. He's a good goal scorer. But Newcastle has to be disappointed with the season so far. No European football and only 18 points so far out of 12 games. That's not good enough. And I think he knows that, Eddie. But I think he's trying to change the team. You know, Livramento in as a right back and Hall in as a left back. In that game against West Ham, I thought Lloyd Kelly, who played as a centre half, was really sloppy. You know, I'm not a big fan of his. I think he's a bit sloppy, isn't it? But are they any better than Fulham and Brentford and the likes? I'm not sure they are, Trevor. And I think that's a real disappointment for people, because there was big expectations with the new owners and the money and whatever. And it almost seems like a product that the owners have gone, yeah, can't be bothered with this anymore. You know, it's almost as if they've lost a bit of focus. You know what I mean? And Eddie Howe's just been left there to give it a go without any real help.
Would you have thought there was any chance that Howe would still be there as gaffer going into this season? No, I find that amazing. And I wonder, because that's quite astute. That's the question that I was asking myself as well, is what is the play here? Because we were all buying they're going to do it sensibly and slowly. Okay, great, yeah. And Eddie Howe's there. Go, okay, great. But I just thought at some point we get to the stage where they do the City thing and just fire a load of money at the wall and see what sticks. And that hasn't happened. So it's really interesting. As you say, is there a potential that they're maybe cooling on this interest, or, you know, is there some grand scheme? Because it's not working. You know,
no, it's definitely not working. But see the thing with the City thing, Trevor, you could sense that here's a football club working towards the arrival of Guardiola, yeah? Until he arrived, they still did well and going managers, big names, Mancini and whatever, but it was all geared towards when we can get Guardiola off Bayern Munich and he walks into the so Eddie Howe done really well, but you don't get the impression that they're building up towards this is what's going to happen, isn't it? It's kind of, we're doing a little bit of that, but you don't get that. I don't think they're proactive. I don't think they're, every good player becomes available. Is Newcastle in the mix? No, they're not. They're quite happy to kind of go for second choices, and we know ourselves, Trevor. What turned us around? Alisson and Van Dijk, yeah?
Yeah.
They turned Liverpool, yeah?
Yeah.
And I'm saying, go on, Newcastle then. Get yourself two players who turn things for you. Guaranteed to turn things for you, innit? No, it's not happening. So they will continue to do okay. But until you get those players, you know what I mean, that takes you to the next level, I just can't see that.
Now, like I say, we have those two massive games. There's no doubt, Jan, that City are going to be ridiculously fired up. They have a freak of footballing nature up top who can just win a game on his own. It's hard to be too bullish going into it. I don't think it'd be too wise to be in any way cocky going into it. But, I think with Arne Slot, we've got the right man for the job here in terms of keeping it calm, like you said earlier on. We know that there'll be a solid Liverpool 11 who can start and that there'll be some quality on the bench. So your optimism levels based on that, we'll hear in a second when I ask you for your predictions. And again, equally with Newcastle, we're talking about where they're not where they should be, but they have enough of a peppering of talent through that team that, you could have a very bad night against them too on their own patch. So there's no doubt about it, man. These 6 points will be very, very, very hard fought and hard won. Do you consider that we're likely to get all of them? What way do you see these games going?
I find it really difficult, Trevor. I find these next two games really difficult. So on Tuesday, when Manchester City played Feyenoord, I had a look at the lineup, I had a look at the people who got on the bench, and I'm thinking, you can still put one hell of a team together with these names,
Yeah.
Play Kyle Walker as a right back and ask him to be a right back. Just defend, do whatever you have to do, isn't it? And then you still got players who could potentially win you the game. You mentioned Erling Haaland. When I left Anfield on Wednesday after the Real Madrid game, and somebody said, "What do you think on Sunday?" I said, "I'm expecting to see a similar thing as I did tonight. A very dominant Liverpool performance against a big club that are having some trouble, having some problems, yeah." But the closer the game gets, I'm thinking, if a City, even in all these defeats they've had, Trevor, they still dominate, don't they? They still have the ball. They're still in complete control, isn't it? So it will be a totally different challenge than Real Madrid. That's for sure, isn't it? So I expect it to be difficult. I think we'll beat City. I think they're fragile. I think they're vulnerable. But I think it'll be tight. I think we'll beat them 1-0. Very unusual for the 1-0 scoreline, Trev, but that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, and ironically not unusual for this iteration of Arsenal. I wonder. Yeah, there is the of Liverpool. Sorry, I've got Arsenal in the brain. So I was just thinking, Arsenal play West Ham away, I think, don't they? Now, if West Ham are slightly resurgent and they are at home, I mean, this weekend could be just absolutely magnificent. And that then could create a bounce going into the Newcastle game regardless. But that's interesting. The most narrow of wins you reckon possible for the Reds against City. What then about the midweek game against the Geordies?
Yeah, it's see, Newcastle sees themselves. I think they almost see Liverpool as their big brother. You know what I mean? They would like, they're very passionate, and I think they would like to be have the same success as Liverpool is, and so the atmosphere is going to be unbelievable, Trevor. And you can run into Newcastle on a bad night. You know, if they play maybe Anthony Gordon on one flank and Harvey Barnes on the other, Isak, they get the fans up, they make it physical like they did when you beat Arsenal, make it physical, make it scrappy. It can be a difficult game. So I'm not as optimistic for the Newcastle game. I think we might have to share the points. I'm looking at Newcastle-Liverpool ending up as a potential 1-1 draw.
Yeah, and it would be very hard to see that as 2 points dropped in the context of the back-to-back fixtures, Real, City, Newcastle. It would be very hard to be too critical. Very interesting, and I want to wrap it up there and let you off back into the evening, because obviously when you're looking as sharp as young Molby is there this evening, there's plans afoot. The town is about to be painted a certain colour, no doubt. Hopefully it's red after the weekend as well. So for another show, Jan, thanks very much, man.
Yeah, no problems, Trevor. More games to look forward to, I think.
That's it, thick and fast, and they all seem to matter like no other game ever mattered before. You know, that's the nature of football and being a football fan. We love it here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for all the feedback, especially to the video clips that are going out at the moment as well. We do appreciate it. So from myself, from Jan, from Molby on the spot, good luck. Brilliant, buddy. Thank you.